Good morning. The September 11, 2019 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. Before we proceed, we'd like to honor a moment of silence in remembrance of 9/11. Thank you. In the interest of promoting the order and efficiency of these hearings, persons who are disruptive to the hearing will be asked to leave the hearing room. Meetings of the Board of Estimates are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in a charge of trespassing. Madam Deputy Comptroller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda?
Good morning. For today's agenda, the board received additional protests. For page 61 to 64, a protest was received by Herschler Freisler on behalf of AM Liner East, Inc. For that same item, pages 61 to 64, a protest was received from the Maryland-Washington Minority Contractors Association. We have two items that are being deferred, and those are pages 42 to 43, item number 15 for 1 week, pages 43 to 44, item number 17 for 1 week. We have some items that will be moving to the non-routine agenda, and those are page 52 to 54, item number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. In addition, moving to the non-routine agenda are pages 61 to 64. I have the following abstentions to report. The Honorable Mayor Young will abstain on pages 3 to 4 and page 114, item numbers 8 and 9. The Honorable President Scott will abstain on pages 3 to 4 and on page 114, item numbers 8 and 9. The Honorable Comptroller Pratt will abstain on pages 66 to 67, item numbers 3 and 4, and page 111, item number 1. The items that remain on the non-routine agenda are pages 31, item number 2, pages 52 to 54, items number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Pages 61 to 64, for which we received protests, and page 90. Mr. President, members of the board, those are the protests received, the items that are being deferred, those that have been moved to the non-routine agenda, as well as the abstentions that have been reported thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. I would direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated September the 9th, 2019, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections and additions that have been noted by the Deputy Comptroller. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
Mr. President, I move approval of the items on the routine agenda.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries. The routine agenda items have been adopted. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 31. Item 2, Department of Transportation Minor Privilege Permit Applications. Applicant Bertha's on Broadway, LLC, located at 734 South Broadway. We received one letter of protest. Will the parties please come forward?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of the applicant here, Andy Norris at 734 South Broadway.
Continue.
We are prepared to go forward today. It's unusual because this is a bar for 50 years. Bertha's, known all over the country. You see the green stickers, Eat Bertha's Mussels. They want to do a little bit of outdoor seating, just like their competitors, along the 700 block of South Broadway, like the other restaurants in that vicinity. And the interesting part is normally, and the important thing here, not to waste your time today, the applicants will still have to go before the Baltimore City Liquor Board if they were to ask to put beer, wine, or liquor on those tables. So I would argue that there's another forum for this, and I would ask that you consider approving this today with the understanding that there will be another public forum in this very room to determine that issue.
Thank you. Sir?
Good morning. Tim Knight, Department of Transportation. We received the protests from the neighbor of Bertha's. I spoke to the protester. He originally was concerned with the amount of space that was proposed. Bertha's changed the design to take up about half of that space. I spoke to him after that, let him know that. He seemed okay. He said he didn't know if he was going to show up today or not. His concern was that they would encroach further after it was approved. I let him know that we would monitor, once we issue the permit. So,
Thank you. So he did not show up today, correct?
apparently not.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. President, I move that the board determine the protest has been withdrawn, and in any event, that the board deny the protest.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. I will entertain a motion to approve. All
So
right.
moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 52 to 54, number 5 through 12, transfer of funds, BCIT. Will the parties please come forward?
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Madam Controller, honorable members of the board. I'm Henry Raymond, Director of Finance.
Todd Carter, Acting Director of IT.
Mark Cherry, CFO for IT.
Yep, I'll give some introductory remarks regarding this. This is for a transfer bill for information technology. The bond issuance is the third Parks and Public Facilities and was approved by the citizens of Baltimore City in the 2018 referendum. It was also approved by the city delegation and the city council as ordinance number 18-147. Parks and public bonds are not limited to either parks or public facilities. This is simply the name of the bonds, which can be used for other purposes such as schools, community and economic development, streets, highways, buildings, utilities, alleys, and information technology infrastructure. The items being considered today, items 5 through 12, today for the Baltimore City Department of Information Technology have nothing to do with parks improvements. They are simply a transfer of funds from reserve accounts to active accounts for previously programmed appropriations using capital funds. And I request that the board approve the transfer today.
Questions from the board? I will entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move approval of the items mentioned by the director.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. The third item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 61 through 64, Department of Law, MBU recommended penalty, non-compliance, AM liner, East Sanitary Sewers, and the Heron Run Shed. We received 2 protests, letters of protest. Will the parties please come forward?
Good morning. How are you?
Ma'am? Yep. Sir?
Good morning. My name is Wayne Travell. I'm counsel for Amliner East Inc. We filed a protest in this matter.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Tamara Brown. I'm the chief of the Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office.
Thank you. The recommended penalty by MBU with respect to SC 908.
Sarah, pull the mic up, please.
With respect to SC 908 is a penalty in the amount of approximately $40,000. I wanted to give the board some background on this matter and explain the circumstances. At the outset, I want to make it clear that Amliner, in fact, missed its African American sub-goal category on this. The contract.
In other words, I'm sorry, just so it's clear, there's no dispute about that.
There's no dispute about that. Yeah, yes, Your Honor. The goal for this contract was 22% minority and women-owned business participation. Amliner actually achieved 44% minority and women-owned business participation. Contract also required 11% African American subcategory participation. In the bid that Amliner submitted, it met that, actually exceeded that goal with respect to the work that they had intended to assign to R.E. Harrington and CCTV masters. During the performance of the contract in 2015, both contractors withdrew from participation in the program. The project manager at that time for Amliner was Mr. Nelson. Attached to our protest as exhibit number, I believe it's part of exhibit number 3. I'm sorry, yes, it's part of attachment number 3. On January 8, 2015, Mr. Nelson wrote to Thomas Corey, who was then in Ms. Brown's position at that time, and informed Mr. Corey that due to conflicts, R.E. Harrington was withdrawing from participation. Mr. Nelson said, "We have a plan in place to replace REH portion of the MBE participation with other approved MBE vendors on SC 908 to meet the originally published bid requirements for this contract." And in fact, the minority participation, as I mentioned before, was met and exceeded. However, we did not employ African American subcontractors for that purpose. That said, Amliner performed the work in 2015. This was under consent decree work. It was of an exigent nature. The work had to be performed by January of 2016. The work was in fact performed by that date. There is, unrelated to this, there is a claim that Amliner has made for both release of its retainage and for an additional claim on the contract because of certain issues that arose with respect to work that was performed by Amliner after Amliner lined one of the liners at Tiffany Run, which is part of the suing the Herring Run watershed project. Work of another contractor actually damaged some of Amliner's performance. For the past 2.5 years, I've been working with Mr. Mullen of the Law Department to try to work those claims out. As partial resolution, in September of 2018, DPW agreed to a release of Amliner's retainage as set out in the letter. That's approximately $500,000. That was processed through DPW, went over to the minority office, I believe sometime in December of 2018. Ms. Brown, I think, took her position sometime early in 2019, contacted me, and she and I met and spoke about a possible resolution of this. Some of our communications were interrupted because of the ransomware issue that the city was undergoing in April and May of this year. But that said, we did meet in person, talked to Ms. Brown about the fact that we did miss the goal. We tried to go back and look at what the circumstances were in 2015 when the work was actually performed. We do not have records. The Amliner doesn't have any records of whether it attempted to employ other African American subcontractors, but the record is clear that we did not. The reason that we filed the protest is because Amliner has been a contractor in this city for more than 20 years. It has good performance with respect both to the performance of its contracts and with respect to its utilization of minority and women-owned businesses. To the extent that there have been protests filed saying that, for example, this contractor, any contractor, should be punished or fined for failing to meet goals, and they are goals. I think the board should take into consideration what efforts the contractor has made to comply with the spirit of the program. Again, no question here that they did not, in fact, meet the numbers with respect to African American subcontractors, but almost doubled the amount of minority and women-owned business participation for the work that it performed. Happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you.
In my opinion,
Madam Comptroller.
to be in compliance with the spirit of the law, you should have substituted with African Americans.
That's correct, and there's no question that AMLINER did not do that. What I want to say to the board is, this was 2015. This was at the height of performance of consent decree work. It's difficult to get contractors, subcontractors, to respond to requests. We did immediately go out and get other contractors who were minority, women-owned businesses and minority businesses. To the extent that we did not meet the goals for African-American subcontractors, again, there's no dispute that in fact did not occur. But because this came up in March of 2019, 5 years after the fact, we're unable to recover what diligence we did do. There is evidence of the fact that we did speak with Mr. Corey, who was the head of the minority office, informed him that our African American subcontractors would not be performing on this work, and that we were trying to get other contractors to come in. But the project manager for this point, who at 2015, no longer works with the company. We did call him. We tried to track him down, got some information from him, but nothing in the point where I could actually say, here's evidence of an email, or here's evidence of a letter or a telephone call where we called somebody. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying that we can't prove it here 5 years after the fact.
Thank you. And before I recognize the mayor, I think that you guys have to understand that these goals aren't just goals for any reason, right? We take this very seriously. We take these goals very seriously, and we have to also understand, well, we appreciate everything that you're saying. To me, at least, it just rambles up to be a bunch of excuses. Baltimore is a majority African-American city, and for us to not be able to find anyone African-American to work on this contract, to me, it seemed to be just a lack of effort. Mr. Mayor?
Well, you just summed it up, Mr. President. These goals are in place for a specific reason, so that we can have minority contractors on these jobs. And to say that you couldn't find anyone really was insulting, to me. So you're saying that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you're saying that we shouldn't enforce the goals that are set, and therefore you didn't meet them, so you don't want to pay a fine.
Yeah,
we're serious about what we do here. Our minority subcontractors, whether they be Asian, African American, or any other nationality, whether they women, MBEs, or these laws are put into place to make sure that these people get the contracts on these large contracts like AMLINER. So are you telling me that there should be no penalty for anybody who does not meet the goals?
No, Your Honor.
Because if that's the case, we don't need a program.
No, Your Honor. I'm not suggesting that in any case a fine would not be appropriate. I'm asking the board to look at the facts and circumstances with respect to this particular contractor, general contractor, and the work it did for the city in 2015 during the height of the consent decree work. And
that's why I'm puzzled. Mm-hmm. That's exactly why I'm puzzled. You've been doing this work for 20 years, and to come up with an excuse today is just unacceptable.
Well, again, Your Honor, to the extent that the work was performed in 2015, and to the extent that the evidence does show that Mr. Nelson was in contact with Mr. Corey, who was head of the minority office at that point in time, again, we're not saying that there aren't circumstances where contractors who ignore the spirit of the program, which is to employ minority contractors, If that's repeatedly failed, there are circumstances where I think a fine is appropriate. With regard to this particular contractor, under these circumstances, this is the first, again, in 20 years, this is the first time there's been this sort of issue with Amliner, and it's not as if it completely ignored the goals of trying to have minority participation in its contracts. It, in fact, doubled the requirement under the contract. I think the board needs to appreciate that in 2015, the subcontractors were very busy, and there was a shortage of African-American contractors at this type of work. That's not meant as an insult. I think that's meant as a reflection of the reality of the circumstances in 2015.
Sir, a couple of questions for you really quickly before we move on. In all of the years that you guys have been doing this work, have you met the goals on the other projects? Have you always met the goals?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, how much money have you guys received over the 20 years that you've in contracts?
I don't know that fact, but whatever we've earned, whatever we've been paid, we've earned, certainly.
This just say it's a lot more than $40,000, right?
Yes. In this particular instance, 44% of the work that was billed to the city, and not all of which has been paid, is owed to minority subcontractors.
Yeah, it was a simple yes or no question.
I'm sorry.
The amount of money that you guys made on contracts is a lot more than $40,000, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Ma'am?
If I may, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. Solicitor.
Mr. Terrell, I take it your position seems to be your client feels that there should be no sanction imposed under the circumstances. But do I further understand that your client's position is that if a sanction is imposed, this is a reasonable sanction, this is not oppressive or outrageous or unreasonable at all?
That's correct, Your Honor. The reason we're protesting is because we take these allegations seriously. You know, we understand that we could have done a better job here. If nothing else, if we had kept better records, I'd be in a better position to be able to defend what Amliner did. I would also note for the record that this work actually occurred in 2015. Here we are 4 years plus later, and frankly, given the pace at which the work was performed in 2015, it's difficult to recover that. But that's on Amliner. That's not on the city.
Thank you for that answer. Mr. President, I think in light of that answer, the matter is concluded. If the board is prepared to receive a motion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yep, Ms. Brown.
Good morning, Tamara Brown, the Chief of the Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office. I'm going to hand out this stuff.
Ms. Brown, while you're handing that out, could you confirm whether or not they have met their MBE, WBE goals for the last 20 years?
I looked over the last 5 contracts, and 3 of which were state contracts. The Baltimore City contracts, they have not met their goals. There is one that's currently in process right now. They have never met their city goals. So I just want to make note of that. And I reviewed $70 million in contracts, and it was $70 million awarded, and they have yet to meet their goals on the city contract. So I'll bring your attention, I won't belabor this any longer. I will bring your attention to number 3 in in the folders that I just gave to you. The goals were actually 16 and 6 overall. The African American goals were 11%, and Hispanic goals were 5%. Item number 3 is Amliner's part of their bid proposal. If you look at page 2, the contractual requirements are clear. Number 3, during the term of the contract, any unjustified failure to comply with the MBE and WBE participation requirements is a material breach of contract. He's already stated that they didn't meet the African American goals. He can't speak to 2015. Mr. Harrington is here to speak to the impact of his business that occurred in 2015, why Harrington walked away from a contract in 2015. The point has already been made. They didn't meet the African American goals. The lowest bidder was Anchor Construction. They were disqualified from this contract because they did not meet the Hispanic goal. That's how much we take that seriously. So you bid one way, you performed another way. Also, in his protest, which he didn't speak to, if you look at page 4 in the binder, Mr. Travell stated that we no longer impose sub-goals.
Actually, I did make that point.
You made it in your letter that we no longer practice.
Oh,
Yeah, correct. So page 4, you'll see that that's still in our laws, it's still in our charter. I'm following the law, and as such, I'm requesting that we penalize Amliner for not being compliant. He said itself, if it's repeated behavior, it should be imposed. Mr. Willett said it, and it is repeated behavior.
Thank you. Mr. Harrington, would you like to speak?
If I may, Mr. President, my name is Robert DeShield. I'm the general counsel for the company, and I would simply add to what Mr. Brown has said that, and to what counsel has said, I guess, when the project manager was removed, the project manager who engaged in conduct that caused my client not to want to work with Amliner, Amliner never came back to R.E. Harrington and saying, do you want to resume work? So that in addition to having failed to find other minority firms, they didn't even come back to the one they already had. In the 35 or 40 years that I've been coming before this board, I frankly am shocked that the penalty isn't greater. I'm shocked that they aren't being suspended even for this kind of conduct. But that's all we have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Solicitor.
Mr. President, I would move the board, having heard from the involved parties, that the board approve IMBU's recommended sanction and reject the protests.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. And for the record, let me just state that if they come before us again, the penalty, in my opinion, will be stricter and will be stiffer. This is unacceptable. We will not stand by it. We want to send a message to them to let them know this is unacceptable and we can move forward. Thank you.
I think Wayne wanted to.
You want to say something?
Remember, he said the protest.
The
It's up to you. Mr. President.
The motion's carried.
approved, yeah.
It's not enough.
The fourth item,
For the full amount of the contract.
Wayne, the protest is over.
It should be. You're missing
Thank
the
you,
point.
sir. Thank you.
African Americans, our people.
Thank you. The fourth item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 90, Department of Audits, Baltimore City Information Technology Biannual Performance Audit Report, fiscal years ended June 30, 2018 and 17. Will the parties come forward? Sir?
Good morning, Mr. President.
Pull the mic up, Mr. Auditor.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Madam Comptroller, board members. My name is Josh Pash. I'm the City Auditor. I am here to present the biannual performance audit of BSIT for 2018 and 2017. This audit covered 4 performance measures: the average time to answer 311 calls in seconds, the number of calls received in 311, the percentage of 311 calls answered within 60 seconds, and the percentage of help desk response times for critical priority tickets within 15 minutes. 2 of the 4 metrics passed. We have a couple things of note. We noted as one of our findings as that BSIT could not provide documentation to support the actual amounts reported of the 4 selected performance measures reported in the budget books. The response was that the information was saved on local computers where the data became lost with when the encryption and the ransomware came up, and there were no backups. Our recommendation to BSIT at that for this was to go ahead and revisit and implement a backup system. We also had a second finding where we noticed that the performance measure for the 311 call center did not reflect the actual efforts of BSIT. And this was, we noted that the metric was off by about 180,000 calls received by 311. And when we followed up with BSIT of why they weren't meeting the metric, the response was that they have no influence over who calls 311. And so our recommendation was for BSIT to revisit the metrics they have to be more meaningful, of which they can have, they can make changes to effect. Also of note, we had a number of follow-up items that were findings from previous audits, and for all three of them, there was no response from BSIT, and we were not able to follow up on the status of any of them because BSIT did not provide any information regarding those. Those findings were similar to some of the findings we had this year, which there was no there was no supporting documentation for the performance metrics, and another finding was there was no written policies and procedures around the targets and the actual results for those metrics. That's all that I have.
Thank you. A couple questions for BSID. On page 7, for all three previous audit findings reported, the auditor comments auditors were not able to verify the implementation status of prior findings and recommendation because BSID did not respond to the auditor's request for that information. It appears the auditor was not provided timely information. Why?
I have to ask Mark to.
And please restate your name for the record.
Todd Carter, Acting Director, IT.
Mark Cherry, CFO of IT. One of the things that we noted is going back is that several of the members who at this time aren't still with BSIT. And so there weren't policies put in place. And so we concurred with that. One of the other things that we agree with is that there do need to be written policies put in place that can be carried forward despite changes in leadership, changes in management through those operational groups. So we definitely concur with the auditor's finding.
So we're basically saying because people left, that nothing was done is what we're saying essentially.
For some of those groups, we don't have the tracking mechanism in place.
What about the rest of them? Some is not all.
In several other groups, there are tracking mechanisms in place, such as 301 and some of the others, but in some of those particular groups, those prior managers did not have those tracking mechanisms in place. And so we agree with that. And so we definitely see where we need to make adjustments and where we can improve in terms of finding proper tracking mechanisms, as well as carrying that forward despite those changes.
Mr. Auditor, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to add one thing. We have been pulling together a series of metrics that cross all of IT. We bring those metrics to CityStat. We have been doing that on a regular basis. We started a couple of weeks ago. So I think we're at a point where we will have metrics that have the background, have the substance behind them, and the trends over time that we will gladly bring to the board.
Mr. Auditor, did you concur with that?
During our reviews and during our meetings, BSIT did have some action plans. We were concerned that there was no response of any action plan or any status for the 3 repeat findings, but when it came to the other items there in the report, the responses we thought were appropriate given the findings.
Thank you. We're going to ask you guys to come back in like 60 days to give us an update on how we've been improving on this.
Gladly.
Thank you. So noted. As there is no more business before the board, we will recess until bid opening at 12 noon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The board is now in session for the receiving and opening of bids. I have the following addenda to note. Department of Public Works 998 on-call assessment and repairs of sanitary sewer mains and laterals, various locations. Please change the bid due date from September the 11th, 2019 to September 18th, 2019. Bureau of Procurement B50005868, provide mobile and on-site shredding. Please change the bid due date from September the 11th, 2019 to September 25th, 2019. Bureau of Procurement B50005861, tire service truck. Please change the bid due date from September the 11th, 2019 to September the 18th, 2019. Those are the addenda.
Okay, all 3 changes are noted for the record.
The first bid is DPW WC 1403, Urgent Need Water Infrastructure Rehabilitation and Improvements, Phase 2, fiscal year 20, with a bid bond.
Thanks.
The first bidder is Anchor Construction Corporation with a bid bond. Total dollar amount is $18,890,286. $18,890,286.
Can I move this?
The next bidder is Spinello Companies. With a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $12,873,300. $12,873,300. The next bidder is J. Fletcher Creamers and Son Incorporated with a bid bond. Total dollar amount is $8,933,910. $8,933,910. Page 140. The next bidder is Metra Industries with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $8,454,504. $8,454,504. The next bidder is Robert E. Harrington for R.E. Harrington Plumbing and Heating Company Incorporated with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $8,996,400. $8,996,400.
These will be referred to the Department of Public Works for review.
The next bid is from the Department of Procurement, B50005866, road paving equipment with a bid bond. The bidder is Valley Supply and Equipment Company Incorporated with a check. Total dollar amount, $115,597. $115,597. The next bidder is Harbor Truck Sales and Service, Inc. with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $1,421,946. $1,421,946. The next bidder is Beltway International LLC with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $1,508,013. $1,508,013. The bidder is Atlantic Machinery, Inc. with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $1,615,887. $1,615,887.
These will be referred to the Bureau of Purchasing for review.
The next bid is from the Bureau of Procurement, 5B50005867, 1-ton dual reel cutaway van with RV body with a bid bond. There were no bids received. The next item is Bureau of Procurement, B50005872, tandem axle tractor with a bid bond. The bidder is Beltway International LLC with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $235,114. $235,114. The next bidder is Harbor Truck Sales and Service, Inc., trading as Baltimore Freightliner Western Star. Yeah, with a bid bond, doesn't have it?
Yeah, that's good.
With a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $235,870. $235,870.
Okay. Okay, these will be referred to purchasing for review.
The next item is the Bureau of Procurement, B50005873, Low Boyd Trader with a bid bond. Page 8. Oh. You don't see a bid bond? What's this?
Yeah. Yes. Well, that might just be there after.
Glenn? Is this a bid bond? Is that the bid bond?
Yeah, that's a bid one. Yeah.
Okay. The bidder is GT Mid-Atlantic LLC with a bid bond. Total dollar amount, $91,184. $91,184. The bidder is Jesco Inc.
Might be in the back.
This is a disc.
Yes, surety. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
With a bid bond. What page is dollar amount? Page 8. Total dollar amount, $92,930. $92,930. The bidder is Globe Trailer Manufacturing, Inc. Glenn? Does it have a bid bond?
Should we say subject to verification?
Subject to verification of a bid bond. Total dollar amount is
Globe Trailer.
$124,120. $124,120. The bidder is Alban Tractor Company. Subject to a bid bond, approval of a bid bond, subject to verification of a bid bond. A total dollar amount is $105,790. $105,790.
So all four of these will be referred to purchasing for review and verification of receipt of bid bonds for Alban Tractor Company and Globe Trailer Manufacturing.
The last item is Bureau of Procurement, B500005877, OEM Parts and Service for UD cab and chassis trucks. No bid bond required and no bids received. There being no further business before this board, it is now in adjournment.